Most people think having a big salary is going to make them rich. But if you think about it, $100,000 here versus $100,000 there is not the same. Location does matter. So maybe having $100,000 in New York or California is not the same as living in maybe a Tennessee or in Alabama, because the money may stretch a little bit further because of cost of living. And so you have to pay attention to why you may be living one way in one place and maybe living another way in another place. But debt actually can be the death of your income. Because as Biggie would say, more money, more problems. In this situation, more debt could equal more problems. And so you want to make sure that you keep yourself from lifestyle inflation. And this is simply a mental shift where you feel like you've arrived, where you've made a certain amount of money. And it's like, okay, I have to show people that I've made more money. And so you start buying more jewelry. Maybe you're getting Rolexes. And I'm not saying that those things are not things that you shouldn't enjoy. But what I see with a lot of athletes and high income clients is that they tend to do this out of making sure that they're showing that they've arrived, and it's not within a certain boundary. And we'll talk about that here in a second of what a boundary looks like to make sure you can keep your money. But you want to make sure that you keep this lifestyle inflation in check, because right now, 50% of people over 100,000 and even up to 200,000 plus are still living paycheck to paycheck. And that's scary, because when you see and hear that kind of money, you think, oh, life is great. They're not struggling. They don't have any debt. But this is really the trap, is the inflation of their lifestyle, getting a bigger house and feeling like they have to get a better car just to show that they're making more money. And that also leads to lack of discipline, where there's no margin in their budget, where they are basically living paycheck to paycheck. As they continue to increase their income, they're increasing their expenses, and it's actually really hurting them worse, to where now they're still making more money, but they can't do anything. They can't move. They can't travel how they want to. So we want to make sure we keep those things under wraps and keeping a boundary. But here's the number one reason why a lot of people struggle as a high income owner. But before I get into that, make sure you like this video and subscribe to the channel to get more financial tips and help you be on your way to financial freedom.
We paid off $17,000
in 100 days. We started in December, and at the end of December, we had paid off his credit card, which was, I think, like $3,500. In January, we started, the next task was my car. So from January to March 10th, we paid off $5,600, around that, on my car.
Are you struggling with debt, or feeling like there's never enough at the end of each month? Or maybe you want to create more income, or maybe you want to start investing but don't know where to start? You're not alone, but you don't have to stay stuck there. The Earners Academy is a financial coaching program where we're helping countless individuals and families eliminate 3 to 4K in debt in less than 30 days, build full emergency funds in less than 90 days, and finally create financial margin inside of their budget. Through accountability, through a game plan, and through guidance, we'll help you on your way to financial freedom. So are you ready to take the first step? Book your consultation today and start building the financial future that you deserve. So let's jump right back into the video. So tracking is the key. What I've seen is that a lot of people do not track their money. And if you watch a lot of shows, typically I love to watch, the drug cartel shows, sometimes the police shows. The issue and the thing that you see a lot of people say is, if you follow the money, it will tell you the truth and it'll tell you the true answer. And that applies here. If you follow your money, it'll tell you how much money you're spending. It'll let you know exactly, okay, I'm spending this amount of money on something. But a lot of people don't really want to face that. They don't want to face the elephant in the room. They don't want to tell the truth and see, oh, I've spent $300 on coffee. I am not in a place where I thought I was financially. I have people that I've worked with that essentially, they don't even want to check their credit card bill because they don't want to know how much they've actually spent. But you got to face it. If you actually really want to get out of debt and get rid of maybe the lifestyle inflation, you actually have to check your money, and you have to track it monthly, even weekly, sometimes daily, depending on how bad your spending habits are. But here's the thing that I will say that I've helped a lot of clients with. You want to live off of a percentage. Because what I see people as they continue to increase their income, they don't really have any boundaries or any guardrails on as their money increases. And so I like to teach what is the 50, 30, 20% budget. And that's 50% going to essentials, 30% going to wants, and 20% going to needs. But essentially why we want that is that you get to enjoy as you continue to grow. Because let's say you have $100,000 salary, and we'll get into some examples here in a second. But let's say as things grow and as things change for you, you still can slowly continue to increase your lifestyle. You can slowly increase maybe your essentials, maybe even your investing. But you want to make sure that you have a boundary on it, because if you don't, if you increase your salary by $200,000, $300,000, you would think that you have more money, but you still need to have a guardrail on how much you're going to actually spend within that category. So let's look at an example of somebody making $250,000. And I actually think if you're watching this thinking, oh, I don't make that, this same principle applies whether you're making $50,000 or you're making $250,000. You still need a boundary on your money. So the average person who makes $250,000, their salary monthly is going to be about $21,000. So at 50%, you're looking at $10,500 in just essentials. So this could be your house, your car, bills, things that you need to be able to operate and live. And then your 30% is going to be your wants. So if you want to travel, if you want subscriptions for certain things, maybe you have certain hobbies you want to do, all that is going to fall in that category. And then your 20% is going to be in savings. But I think here's the key. These are the numbers for $250,000. Let's take a look at if you had a $400,000 salary. Let's say your salary increased by $150,000, which is a lot of money, right? But once again, if you go from $50,000 to $100,000, you would still apply the same percentage as you do it. So a person who's making $400,000 is looking at about $33,000 a month. So if we were looking at 50%, you're still looking at $16,500. Now, here's the key that I would tell you in the trick. Just because this number goes up, you don't actually have to go up with it. It just shows you what you can afford and still be able to. So what I see people do, if you have a really nice house that's less than $2,000 or $4,000 in mortgage or rent, just because your salary increases doesn't mean you have to go up and get a $16,000 a month house or be able to just increase your expenses just because you can. This just shows you, okay, I can afford this and still feel a certain type of way and feel comfortable and feel secure. But this is just to give you a guardrail because now your wants go up. So now you're looking at about $10,000 in wants. So actually, if you wanted to save up and buy a watch, maybe this is the time that you do it because your wants have gone up. But you don't want to just do it every month just because you can afford it. Because at the end of the day, here's something I'll leave you with. It's not about how much money that you make. It's about how much money you keep. Because if you make a lot of money and you don't have anything to show for it that you can keep, it really means absolutely nothing. So I hope this video was helpful for you. And if you're looking for more tips to continue to grow your net worth and be on your way to financial freedom, make sure you check out these videos.